Hi, this is Dr. Lisa Abell for PureMedicine.com, and today I want to talk to you about our diet and why the diet that we're eating may not be the most optimal diet for our body and for our physiology. I'm going to cover 5 different diets and what is beneficial about them and what may not be so beneficial about them. So the first diet I want to talk to you about is the vegan or the vegetarian diet. And I used to be vegetarian from age 12 to age 24, and I didn't want to eat animals either. However, when I understood that our skin is made of essential saturated fats and amino acids, that really changed my idea of what really the body needs. And oftentimes we have these idea of what is the perfect diet, but then physiologically things may not be working for us. I have so many patients that are vegan and vegetarian, and they do really well for 2 to 6 months. And it is a great detoxification diet. If you're overweight and you do things correctly, it can be a very supportive diet. But long term, we need 2 kinds of foods in our diet. We need building foods and we need detoxifying foods. And if we only eat detoxifying foods, then our body is going to decompensate and degenerate because, well, we need these foods too. And when we're young, we can get away with having a vegan and a vegetarian diet because we have lots of amino acids and things like that. But as we get older, our skin will start breaking down, our gut and our gut mucosa will begin to break down because we need these essential fats and essential proteins in order to heal and rebuild our body. Another issue that I found with vegans and vegetarians is simply that there are too many carbohydrates and sugars eaten. So when we eat beans and then we eat rice and we eat lots of vegetables and potatoes and yams, we're eating sugar-based foods, or starches actually turn into sugars. And oftentimes we have a complex ecosystem or microbiome in our gut where we have between 1,000 and 1,200 species of bacteria in our gut. And when we give loads of starches and sugars, we actually are feeding the harmful bacterias, yeasts, and pathogenic organisms. And that can be problematic because it creates an imbalance in the ecosystem of our gut and in our mouth and in our skin microbiomes. Next, the diet that we want to talk about is having a no-fat diet. And years ago, especially when I was younger, having a no-fat diet was a really big thing. So there's no-fat yogurt, non-fat milk and things like that, because we falsely perceive that eating fat makes us fat, and that is actually incorrect. We actually need fat. Our brain is made of 60% fat, so it's really important. And it depends on what kinds of fat that we're eating as well. And so oftentimes when we're eating, for example, vegetable fats, that's not the kind of fat that the body actually needs for its cell membranes, its nerve cells, and its skin cells. So that can be problematic. Having fat in our diet is one of the 3 major food groups: carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So we don't want to just remove an entire category of foods from our diet because there will be repercussions. And oftentimes we notice with patients who are very, very deficient in fats, their skin starts to break down, they age, and they degenerate. Their gut and their gut mucosa is problematic. They're sensitive to all sorts of foods and things like that. And I always say, if you have loads of food allergies, it's not the food that's the problem. Usually it's us that's the problem. If we're eating, meats, vegetables, nuts and seeds and raw dairy products and things like that. So fat is very important. The next diet I want to talk to you about is the demonization of saturated fat and the introduction of large amounts of vegetable fats in our diet rather than saturated fats from animal fats. Dr. Ray Peat, who's a PhD at University of Oregon in Eugene, has done research for almost 30 years on hormone dysregulation and the introduction of vegetable fats. And what he sees is that it interferes with thyroid function. It makes us fatter by eating vegetable oils. Isn't that interesting? I always give an example of in the 1950s, there was a transition with our feed supply with our animals, because in the olden days, our cows actually ate grass. And these farmers got together and said, what can I do to make my cows fatter and have a shorter period of time where we need to raise them to then, get the meat to market? And basically what they found was that these vegetable oils that were introduced into the diet of these animals actually blocked thyroid function and made them fatter quicker. So, if we look at that, and this is basically how farming has been done for the last 60 and 70 years, is that we've given our animals corn feed or soy feed, and those have large amounts of soy oil and corn oil. And nowadays, we don't even give our animals regular corn or regular soy. We give them genetically modified corn and soy. So that's even worse for the animal, but it does directly contribute to weight gain and hormonal dysfunction. And that's the most important thing that we want to talk about with these vegetable oils. And what Dr. Abell and I have learned is how to give the right oils in the right amounts and remove these bad oils from our diet. Next is the Atkins and the paleo diet. And I am a great supporter of the paleo diet. It's wonderful if it's done correctly. However, when we eat high amounts of muscle meat, it directly correlates to high homocysteine levels in the body. So there are certain secrets that Dr. Abell and I explain in our other videos about how we can change that, and how just eating these muscle meats and having a high protein vegetable diet is, there are certain tricks to that that really need to be understood in order for the Atkins or the paleo diet to work correctly. Lastly, the keto diet is really, really popular, and it's an amazing diet. We really want to have a high-fat diet in order to allow our body to burn fat rather than sugars and carbohydrates. However, what we don't understand is that our environment is filled with chemicals and pesticides. One of them is glyphosate. And this pesticide is extremely toxic to our bile ducts and our metabolic system. It's an antibiotic for our gut, and it blocks our body's ability to detoxify. It makes us fatter. And if we, for example, had a vegetarian or a very low-fat diet for a very long time, that can be problematic with that transition to go from a low-fat diet to a very high-fat diet. And the reason for that is because these chemicals get blocked up in these metabolic pathways. And Dr. Abell and I clean out these pathways and support that detoxification in order to help make that transition to a more ketogenic diet possible, and easily and effortlessly possible, so that not only do we lose weight, but we're eating the right things for our body, and we're cleaning out the plumbing as well. So this is Dr. Lisa Abell for PureMedicine.com.